Let's start talking about MLP. Why do you like Midstream so much?
Midstream is one of the highest yielding sectors today as a whole. If you look at sector ETFs like the Illyrian MLP ETF, for example, has around an 8% trailing 12-month dividend yield. So if you compare it to non-leveraged, utilities ETFs, non-leveraged REIT ETFs, it's about twice, or in some cases even more than twice, the yield that you're going to get from those. But I think that Midstream, its yield is more sustainable than those, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I also think the valuations are still very attractive, whether you're looking at enterprise value EBITDA based on its historical norms, still very attractive. And then especially when you combine it with these next several points, the durable and defensive business model. Midstream, the typical Midstream has between 80 and say 95% of its EBITDA exposure coming from long duration contracted cash flows or even regulated assets in some cases, which makes them even more conservative, more defensive. So they tend to have very low commodity price exposure, which in an industry like energy is invaluable because energy can be so volatile. So it makes them much more of a defensive and durable business than a cyclical business, which is, the energy producing companies are more cyclical in nature. And so that makes them more dependable as income machines and also much easier to value. And then, of course, their balance sheets have become very strong in recent years. I think especially around, between the 2018 energy crisis, and you had the likes of like Kinder Morgan slashing their dividends. And so they really shifted to the self-funding model, which resulted in very low leverage ratios, strong investment grade credit ratings, and a lot of free cash flow generation. And so that's also led to very well covered payouts. It's very rare to see a Midstream that has razor thin distribution coverage. And so that also gives a lot of confidence in the sustainability. Despite the payouts being so high in terms of yield, they're still very well covered. And then finally, there's very strong distribution growth because of that large amount of free cash flow they're generating, and they're still generating solid underlying growth. So when you put all that together, sure, no investment is risk-free, but I just see it as the most complete package of any sector if you're looking at high yield, but also wanting to minimize risk and maximize total return.